Hey, everybody, and welcome to this live stream, this live interview we're getting ready to have. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Homeschool Connect Expo during this is the month of June, so we have online learning fair going on all the month of June. And of course, you can go to Homeschool Connect Expo 365, 24/7 and get the latest and greatest and information about exhibitors and speakers and really learn how what there is for you to help you homeschool your kids and everything like that. So thank you so much for tuning in. We got a really cool one today that's very unique. I love this. I'm a foodie myself, so I love what she brings. This is Katie Kimball. We're getting ready to speak with. Kids cook real food. Gotta love that. So let's bring her on. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this live, click your questions. It pops on, and I'll ask her, later on in this conversation. If not, go to Homeschool Connect Expo. Click on the online learning fair. Click on her exhibitor booth. Kids cook real food, and has a ton of videos, ton of information, and then a link out to her website where she has a special offer for you. So let's bring her on and get her going here. So, hey, Katie, how are you doing today?
Hey, Sam, real well. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody out there.
Yeah, thanks for joining the being a part of this. I was looking forward to this because I'm a foodie, and I truly believe that there's so many lessons that could be done in the kitchen with the kids, and it's a great way to get them started. But first, before we get into that, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about Kids Cook Real Food?
Well, I am on a mission to get every kid in America, in the world, comfortable in the kitchen, because I really believe that is how we build confidence. I mean, I believe that the best way to show kids that they matter, that they make a difference in the world, is to give them authentic skills. And there's no more authentic skill than nourishing other people in your family, other people in our world. And when kids can do that, when they can do that real adult skill that clearly makes a difference, that clearly matters, their confidence is boosted more than anything else in the world that I can think of. So that's what I do. I'm a mom of 4 kids myself. They range from they're just going into first grade up to a junior in high school, and they all know how to cook. I get a night off every week from making dinner. My 2 older kids cook, and then child 3, who's just about to turn 10, he does some sous chefing throughout the week as his responsibility. For the 4th child, he gets off easy for now.
Yeah, for now.
He's the baby of the family.
Well, that's awesome. And I love it because it teaches them so much of math and science. I mean, there's so many lessons, and it's so fun to have that time, and it does give them confidence to do. And there's a practical side, of course, as well too. To give the parents a break, the mom a break, where the kids can cook, and it just gives them a little bit more confidence on top of it. So I love that. When did you start Kids Cook Real Food?
We've been online 5.5 years now, and we serve over 18,000 families all around the world in our paid membership. But by my count, I mean, we've helped over 100,000 kids get in the kitchen, because we offer a lot of free programming as well.
Wow, that's awesome. That is amazing. And it's a perfect time, to teach kids about cooking and real food. I think the real food is just as important too. Because you're teaching them, how to cut, slice, dice carrots and everything else. So I mean, that's awesome in and of itself, especially in today's world.
Yeah, one really interesting, I don't even know if it's a statistic, but one interesting fact that I recently read is that picky eating, which is it's really a huge problem in America, in North America, at least. I think in my childhood, picky eaters were not nearly as rampant as they are now. One of parents' primary concerns when it comes to food and nourishment. Picky eating has actually increased during this past year, during this pandemic, because kids are stressed, and they're turning to comfort food, and they're restricting foods that are their safe foods, because they are because they are so stressed.
Mm.
So picky eating is definitely something that I also kind of wave the flag for and try to teach parents how to avoid creating a picky eater and how to help heal, so to speak, picky eaters that they may have at their tables.
Okay, awesome. Now you have a presentation for us that goes more into detail. So
Exactly. Yeah, we're going to
yeah.
talk about a 3-step process to help picky eaters approach food with curiosity instead of fear.
Oh, very cool. All right.
All right. So yeah, let's jump right in. So when we talk about, when we talk about our kids, obviously we want them to be friends with food. We want them to have a good relationship with food. And so this is 3 steps of my 5-step process for helping kids build a great relationship with food. And it's called prepare the space, lead with your ace, and keep a poker face. This is what you need to know when you're working with your kids at the table, not working, when you're raising your kids, really. So preparing the space, friends, is all about the idea that a good dinner really begins at snack with proper snacking routines. Too many children in America and again in North America are eating too many snacks. They're eating snacks too close to meals, and they don't even know what a good appetite feels like. So in order to build a good appetite in kids, which is definitely step one to them eating and enjoying the meal that you have made, you need to prepare the space. So I strongly encourage you to look at your snack routines. And I know homeschooling families say all the time, but Katie, my kids have access all the time to the kitchen. Like, this is the bane of my existence. They're constantly wandering in and getting snacks. So what do I do? Well, you're still the parent, guys. You got to put a kitchen closed sign up or create that boundary that the kitchen is open for snack time, during this half hour or this hour of the day, twice a day. And then it's closed and hold to that. Use whatever discipline strategy works for anything else, for getting them to do their schoolwork, go to bed on time, and not run in the street. Apply that to snacking too. So I strongly encourage you to create a snack routine with at least 90 minutes between each meal and snack. It is better 2 hours. The older the child, the longer the span. So some kids are going to need 3 hours between stopping eating their snack and beginning eating their dinner to really build that appetite. This also applies to after dinner. So if you are a family who does a lot with bedtime snacking, you need to examine that timing. What time are you eating dinner? What time is the family leaving the table, right? Finishing dinner. And do you have at least an hour and a half before that bedtime snack? If not, you really sabotage what you're trying to do at dinner. Because if kids know that they can wander back in half an hour later, or that they'll get a bedtime snack an hour later after dinner, they realize dinner is optional. And that is the worst power that we can give them, because if dinner is optional, it doesn't really matter what we serve or what we say, they're not going to eat it. The other thing with snacks is I strongly encourage no more than 1 snack between meals. Okay. And so really, if you're following the 90-minute part or the 2 hours, more than 1 snack doesn't really fit. So you go no more than 1 snack between meals, and then no seconds on snacks. We can use the fun word satiating or satisfying with our kids. And I tell my kids a snack is meant to satisfy. It's meant to stop you from being hungry. It is not meant to fill you up, right? So when my kids ask for seconds on snacks, I just say the same thing every time. So I don't have to think. It doesn't tax my parent brain. I just say, oh, nope, we don't do seconds on snacks, right? Total policy in your household. And that means that a child's going to, again, cut their hunger, but not get so full that they can't build an appetite for dinner. To help you remember this, I call this the MS-90 one and done rule, right? So between a meal and a snack, you'll have 90 minutes at least, and one and done. 1 serving of snack, 1 snack between meals, and that's it. You're done. Meal, snack, yep, 90 minutes, 1 snack only. So what's important here is that the kids don't need to know this. The kids don't need to know MS-90 one and done. That's for you. That's for you, the parent. The kids just need to understand that there are some boundaries and there is some structure for snack, so that we do not sabotage our appetite for dinner. Now, once your kids are coming to dinner with an actual appetite and understanding that hunger is good for them, right? An appropriate amount of hunger is a good thing. You want to capture that appetite, and you're going to lead with your ace, because the very first thing we eat when we have a good appetite, the very first thing we eat in any given meal tastes the best, right? Those first few bites taste the best. And so we want to present the foods we most want our kids to eat into that slot where everything is tasting the best and the kids actually have the appetite. So what might your ace be? For most people, it's vegetables. Now, some people say to me, well, Katie, my kid just has trouble eating meat. Well, okay, great. Then you start with the protein first. For the majority of families, veggies first is what leading with your ACE means. This can look like a couple different things. You might put out a raw veggie platter with some dip. That's a ranch dressing that my kids actually make, and just allow the children to graze. Okay. If, especially if you've got younger kids and they're kind of buzzing through the kitchen anyway as you're preparing food, you can put out some raw veggies. You can have those prepared in advance so it's not stressful. It's not adding to your meal, and a healthy dip. And then they're bringing that appetite to the table and the veggies go down. Here is a key. I got to tell you, here is a key. If you use a veggie ace where it's like a, first course, appetizer like that, don't say anything. Don't say, I want you to eat your vegetables, right? Or, anything that puts any pressure on the kids, because especially for our more selective eaters, they tend to maybe be a little fearful of new foods or new situations. So we just want to be super chill. We just want to put that out there. And like, if you're hungry, I put something on the table, right? And let them interact with that food. Another option for serving veggies first, for leading with your ACE, is a blended soup as a first course. This is kind of fun because you can say, oh, we're going to be kind of like a restaurant today. We're going to have a first course and then a second course, and maybe a third course, however you want to split it up. But the deal is, when you serve your veggie ACE, there's nothing else on the table. Okay. So even if you're all sitting down together, you come together, maybe you say grace and you say, this is our soup course today. Our main course will be served in 10 minutes. Even if the kids don't eat the soup, that's okay. They're still going to hang out with the soup and make friends with those vegetables for 10 minutes while you have family conversation and you can eat it. Now, here's the reason I love a blended soup in particular as a veggie ACE. First of all, everything's blended in. So the kids who are scared of green foods can't pick them out. Now that might mean they don't eat the soup at all, but that's okay. And second, we can make it a little fun. You can see that I use sour cream to make faces on these soups. And I love to serve a blended soup with a straw. We put like a half a straw, you cut the straw in half so it's not flipping around. And there's just something novel about that kids appreciate. And they tend to, I think, eat about 50% more soup when they're sucking it through the straw. But again, the key is that there's nothing else on the table. They do not have to eat the soup. They do not have to eat the veggie ACE, but they also don't have any other options for at least 10 minutes. So ideally, the synergy of that appetite and only having one option allows them the space to give it a try. Now, it's very important to remember that we do not want to have any short order cooking. Okay, short order cooking sabotages anything that you are trying to do to help your picky eaters make friends with new foods, right? Because if they have the option to only eat the foods that they love every single day, they're not going to break out of that picky eating box, right? So we are not serving them well as trying to raise healthy, independent adults by serving them only the foods that they like. So if you have slid into that habit, no guilt, no shame. We've all done things in our parenting because they were easier, right? Convenience food makes it very easy to short order cook. If you've slid in that habit, do not worry about it. But I would encourage you today to say, I am going to get out of this habit. Either I'm going to go cold turkey, no more short order cooking, or I'm going to figure out how to, slowly shift out of it, where you're really encouraging everyone in the family to eat one meal, because that connection as a family and that continuity of doing the same thing, of eating the same thing, is really important for your kids to build that great relationship with food. And that's the thing. If you're serving mac and cheese every night, you can create a new normal. Just because it's your habit now does not mean it has to be your habit later. And when you can create a new normal, especially the younger your kids are, the shorter time it will take, they will eventually forget, about the old mac and cheese. So you might start that by making a homemade mac and cheese, if that's your kid's thing, right? And maybe you have to serve them both. Maybe you have to serve the blue box and the homemade on the same day. There's lots of different ways to shift. And again, I actually have a whole picky eating class that goes through this. But if you can at least set a goal that short order cooking is not serving your family, you're strides ahead of many families who are struggling with picky eating. Here's something that I want all parents to know and to internalize. There's a wonderful feeding expert named Ellen Satter. So I did not create this. I just teach people how to practically implement what she calls the division of responsibility in the home. And I hope you'll see how powerful this is and how much weight and stress and pressure respecting the division of responsibility at the table can take off of parents' shoulders. So Ellen Satter says, parents have a job, kids have a job. Okay, so parents, your job, your lane, we'll say, is to decide what is served, to decide when food is served, when dinner happens, right? And where you eat. P.S. Where should be the kitchen table? But that's just me. Parents decide what, when, and where to eat. And then boom, your responsibility ends. Children have a job too. Children get to decide whether they eat at all. And I know that terrifies some of you. And kids get to decide how much they eat. Now, some of us say, oh my goodness, no, Katie, if I don't make them eat, they will not eat anything. And then they'll go hungry, and then they'll be cranky, and then they won't sleep, and I'll be waking up in the middle of the night. And there's no way that this is happening in my family. And I hear you. I hear your concerns. And I hear that the system that has been sort of working so far is that you force them to eat. But let's think about this. When your child leaves your home, whether they go to college, whether they get a job, whether they get married at 19, someday they will not be in your home. And unless you are willing to go stand behind them in that college dormitory or stand behind them in their first apartment and continue to make them eat, you're setting up a system that's not going to work forever, right? So what do we want to do? We want to raise kids who have the habits and who have the abilities to grow into healthy, independent adults who can feed themselves, right? So if we are making them eat, that's a broken system that cannot last. Also, it's disrespectful to them, and it creates such an opportunity for power struggles, right? Because here's the thing. There are 3 things that we cannot make kids do. We can't make them eat, sleep, or poop. And that is why bedtime and potty training and the dinner table are the greatest source of power struggles between parents and kids, because we literally can't win. You cannot tell a kid sitting on the potty, you have to poop, right? You can't tell a kid whose head is on the pillow, you have to sleep. It doesn't work, right? We can pick up a screaming 2-year-old and remove them from the situation and force them to stop hitting their sister, right? But we can't make them eat, sleep, or poop. So the only way for everyone to win, because if we enter into the power struggle about eating, sleeping, or pooping, everybody loses, right? The parents lose because your authority is decreased. The kids lose because they feel horrible. The only way so that everyone can win is that we respect the fact that we cannot make them eat. And if you can believe here today that you cannot make your child eat and allow yourself to step back and say, okay, that makes sense. I decide what is served. That means the child can't get up and go get potato chips from the pantry, but I can't make them eat, and therefore don't ask them to eat, right? Don't create that expectation that they have to eat. And friends, when kids get that control back, when they get the control that is rightfully theirs anyway, because you can't actually make them eat, but when you give them that control back, they generally feel so good about that you'd be surprised at what they actually eat. I just did a big picky eating challenge, and one of the moms, her name's Jenny, she said, this is not going to work. There is no way. If I don't make my child eat, dinner's going to be horrible. He won't eat. Same thing I just said. I said, just try it, Jenny. Try it one night. And she tried it. She came back and she said, I put out, I forget what it was, a couple items and some cucumbers. And I said, it's your choice how much you eat. And she said, it was crazy. He ate the same number of cucumbers that I would have made him eat if I was still making him eat food. She said, I couldn't believe it. I like giving up control. And he liked it too. And so much less stress at the dinner table, so much less stress. Now, not all kids are going to eat the same number of cucumbers you'd make them eat on the first night, but over time, once they begin to trust you, that you're allowing them to have that control and independence in what they eat, then they're more able to take steps, right? And to explore and to not be afraid of food, because they know that no one's going to pressure them, right? When the pressure comes off the kids, the pressure comes off the adults, the stress at the table diminishes, the power struggles dissipate completely, and everybody feels better. And when you feel better, you digest better. You're more likely to try new things. It's powerful, guys. It's so powerful. So if you take nothing else from today, stop pressuring your kids to eat. Cool. That means no rewards. No, if you eat your broccoli, you get dessert. That means no, you have to take 3 bites before you leave the table, right? These are all really, really common phrases. And sometimes they work, in quotation marks. Sometimes they work to get kids to eat, but they do not work long-term. They do not set up a positive relationship with food, and they do not help your relationship and your connection with your child. So 3-step process, right? 3-step process with a couple little detours on step 2. The 3-step process, to remind you, is prepare the space, follow the MS-90 one and done rule, create buffers between your meals and your snacks so that kids build an appetite. Lead with your ACE, capture that appetite with usually vegetables first with nothing else on the table. And then the glue that makes it all stick together, friends, is keeping a poker face. Because if you get your kids to build an appetite with great snack routines, you lead with that ACE, those vegetables, and then you say the wrong thing or use the wrong tone of voice and basically leave your lane in the division of responsibility or make them feel that they have pressure to eat, it all falls apart. None of it works. So this step is very, very important. I need you to keep a poker face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some terms for your parenting toolbox, some phrases that you can just pull out. You can say the same thing every night in different situations. You do not have to think, because I know you're fatigued at the end of the day, right? We get decision fatigue. We have a certain number of good decisions we can make. Usually by dinner, we are starting to run out, are we not? So you're going to think about what situations might come up at the dinner table. I'm going to give you what you can say, and you just keep a poker face. The more chill you are, the less pressure you put on your kids, the better it all works out in the end. So first, we got to get out the eraser. First, we're going to commit to not saying some things about food and our kids. I want you to commit to never saying my kids are picky eaters, even if you believe that in your heart of hearts, because if we label our kids, if we slap that label on them, kids aren't going to peel it off. They're not going to bust out of the picky eating box. Okay. So I want you to understand that your kids may be behaving a little picky. They may be selective or preferenced, but just like we've never say about our kid who's potty training, oh, like he's just a poopy kid. He's just a diaper dandy. You know, we don't like label our kids. We just say, oh, they're potty training. They're still learning to go potty, right? Your kids are still learning to eat. So we're not going to call them picky eaters. I want you to never say this. Oh gosh, no, they won't try that. Oh, he would hate that. He won't try it. No. You got to let your kids decide, right? You got to give them the agency, give them the control. And here's what you can say instead. Here are the first terms for your parenting toolbox. Instead of saying my kids are picky eaters or oh, they'd never like that, say, you know, my kids are still learning what they like. Totally true, right? We're all learning and growing. It's a process learning to eat. My kids are still learning what they like. You can say to your child, like if they say, oh, I'm not going to like that, you can say, well, your taste buds aren't grown up yet. Yet is such a powerful word when it comes to giving your kids that growth mindset. When you say yet, you let them know that you believe that they are still learning to eat, that you believe there's growth there, that you believe that they will change. And they will. I mean, think about it. How many foods can you think of you did not eat when you were a kid that you totally love now? I bet there's lots. I didn't eat beans. I didn't eat salmon. I didn't eat green beans. And I love them all now because we're still learning what we like. And then this reverse psychology one is great. Oh, maybe you'll like that when you're older. That's how I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old who both love feta cheese, which is really a grown-up flavor because I use that on. I'm like, oh no, this is mommy's salad. You'll like that when you're older. And they're like, no, I want to try it now. And now they love feta. All right. And I want you to be an example, right? So you can talk about those times, all those little foods, all those foods that you didn't like when you were little that you like now. These are wonderful stories for the dinner table because it shows kids that growth is possible. And of course, I know some parents are kind of still picky eaters themselves, but the more we can be open to new foods and model that behavior, oh, I'll try that. I'll give it a try, even if you don't like it. The idea that adults can still be trying things, very powerful for kids, very important. Okay, now serving a new food can be a really volatile situation, right? If you've got a more selective eater, the power struggles can come up on this new food. So let's see what you can say here. What if you serve something new, like spinach, scary green things, and they don't like the food? This is a term for the kids, okay? We teach the kids in the Kimball household, and we teach all of our Kids Cook Real Food kids that they can say one thing and one thing only when they don't like something. And that phrase is, it's not my favorite. That's it. They can just say, it's not my favorite. This sounds so much more polite, right? Because when you've cooked a nice meal, and your kids say, ew, gross, ew, I'm not eating that, I don't like it. Oh my gosh, it just pushes your buttons so much, right? So not only is this going to diffuse the button pushing situation, sounds much more polite when you're out and about, if you're sharing a meal with another family, but also it gives kids one choice. And they know that they have to be polite whether they like that food or not. Now, I do tell kids that you can't say it's not my favorite if you've only looked at the food with your eyeballs, right? Because although we do evaluate food with our eyes, we can't really taste with our eyeballs. So I give my kids what's called a taster bite. Now, division of responsibility, remember that says I can't ask them to eat it. Not can't. I will not. I will not choose to make my child eat it, right? I will not require it. Now, I can ask them to eat it. I can use the term taster bite with that hopeful, optimistic, attitude that hopefully you take a taste. But the only thing I want you to require is that a taster bite goes on their plate. Okay. And they can't say it's not their favorite unless they've tasted it. They can say, I don't want to try this, because that's their division of responsibility, right? That's their lane. But at least if you can start the habit of putting one taster bite on their plate, that's a good thing, because at least the kids then get that exposure to that food. They've smelled it a little bit, and every exposure can build up to helping them be more tolerant of that food. It's not my favorite. It has some interesting side effects. And I'll share a story from Erin. Erin is a mom of a 2-year-old, and she says, oh, that simple phrase had made so much difference at our dinner table. And honestly, here's what Erin says. My 2-year-old says it's not my favorite about something every single night. And in the end, he eats every bite of the not my favorite food. Isn't that interesting? That is an example of how giving the child control, giving the child choice over what they eat and how they evaluate what they eat, actually allows them the space to feel like they can eat those things. Because I guarantee if Erin said to her 2-year-old, you have to try this, the 2-year-old would either throw a big fit, have a power struggle, and zip his lips so tightly that Erin couldn't get that bite in, or he'd take one bite, because that's what's required, and probably not eat anymore. So giving the child that control, that choice, and that agency is so, so powerful. And that's another little interesting side effect, other than politeness, of the it's not my favorite phrase. Now, there are kids who are either too stubborn or really too afraid of food, who have had, too many poor experiences in the past for whatever reason. They're just very afraid of new foods. They're not even going to think about a taster bite. They're not going to let it pass their lips. They might even freak out if it's on their plate. So what are some other options we can give them? Well, we can say, first of all, you don't have to take that bite. That's okay. It's okay to experience your food. It's okay to experience your food. All you need to do is use those tongs, right? Pick up that piece of cauliflower and put it on your plate. And that's it. You don't have to taste it, right? This respects the division of responsibility, the job of the parent and the job of the child. And again, it really is okay to experience their food. And it's good. It's good for them. But I always give kids at least a bite on their plate. It's best, guys, it's best if the kid serves themselves, because then that's a closer exposure, right? That they're like maybe touching it, or they're at least getting like pretty close to it. So it's best if they serve themselves rather than you serving them. And then, they can choose a ridiculously small bite. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it's on their plate and they get that exposure. One other option for kids who do not like that taster bite is a little salt, a little SLT. I tell kids who are really selective, I say, you know what? You don't have to eat that. That's cool. Just why don't you try smell it, lick it, or taste it? Okay, smell it, lick it, or taste it. This allows a child to have control over their body, right? The food does not have to pass into their mouth. They can just smell it. But for those of you who feel like, gosh, if I don't have some rules before my kids leave the table, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be anarchy. You say, that's okay. You can leave the table when you've smelled it, licked it, or tasted it, that taster bite. And this often, again, it gives kids choice. And man, do kids love choice. And that allows them to approach that food with more curiosity and less fear. Now, some kids really do have physiological underpinnings of picky eating. And there's a disorder called sensory processing disorder. And that's when the senses are sort of on high speed. So if I eat a bite of potatoes with pepper and salt on it, I'm thinking it's pretty bland. But a kid with sensory processing disorder might take that same exact food, and their senses are sort of adjusted too high. And to them, it's very, very spicy, right? And we can't understand that as parents, because we're like, I just ate that. It's totally bland, right? So anyway, it's something, if you're thinking, boy, my kid is just a little beyond your average picky eater, like they have texture issues and they can't handle spices, or they want only spices. Sometimes the senses are dialed down too far. It's something to look into. And there's a wonderful story. My friend Mary Vogt, whose kids did have sensory processing disorder, but she was still able to feed them only real food. She never did the box mac and cheese, but work with how their bodies were designed, worked with their senses. And now she has kids who are just amazing eaters. So if you think in any way that your kids might have some sensory processing issues, I would encourage you to go to kitchenstewardship.com/SPD and read Mary's story. Here's a fun story from someone who heard this presentation 4 years ago. She said, I thought my 3-year-old was beyond hope. Sensory processing was part of it. Still some foods that genuinely make him gag, but we instituted the lick it rule, the smell it, lick it, taste it. It took 3 years before licking turned into nibbling. So P.S. parents, be very, very patient. Be very patient. Now at 7, he prefers meat to all else, but he takes his required bites without too much resistance. Yes, this mom is requiring bites. We'll work on that. But the thing is, she just started with smell it, lick it, taste it. And that's a nice little bridge. It's a nice little bridge for kids. Oh, and that is it for me. This is part of a longer presentation, so I should have put an ending screen on there. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was sitting there watching. I was like, our kids are grown, but now we have grandkids, and we have one grandson who is I can't call him a picky eater, I guess now.
He has his preferences.
He has his preferences, but but what I love about it is I had never thought about doing what you had said, lead with your ACE and have one item of food just sitting there for a while. And that's just something, we're definitely going to try to do because, we feed meals and here's all these meals and here's like 2 things he loves and a couple things he doesn't. And of course, and I just never even thought about it. I just never even thought about how just lead with ACE, lead with something, have it there for a while, and then go into the food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kids are genuinely pretty curious. And so, especially if that's not a habit, you don't usually serve an appetizer. They're like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And they'll go check it out. So it can be really effective, especially if the snack has that space.
Yeah. And the other thing I loved is the power struggle. Well, you're talking about the power struggle and what was it? Sleep, eat, and poop.
Mm-hmm.
That's their, that was a struggle, so that's really cool how you've been able to, try to get parents to kind of re-understand some of the stuff and kind of go through. And like you said, the less stress on the kids, hopefully less stress on the parents.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, even if your kids don't eat the vegetables, if you're not trying to get out of your lane, if you're not trying to make them eat the vegetables, you're so much less stressed. And you're just trusting the process, trusting that they will eventually learn to eat, just like they eventually got potty trained. And we just have to sort of back off. We have to keep that poker face. I know snacks are a big deal, especially in the summer when we have even less routine, than we do, when we're really working through our schoolwork and our homeschool work. So that's what we are tackling at Kids Cook Real Food. We're tackling the snacks issue next week. So if parents are like, oh, I wish my kids could make their own snack, or I wish they'd stop asking for snack 5,000 times a day, we're actually doing a free snacks challenge summer camp starting Monday. So if anyone's interested in that, that's at kidscookrealfood.com/snacks challenge. So maybe when the Homeschool Expo gives them a little break, that can be something for the kids to do.
Yeah. I think so. I think the more opportunities we give kids to do these things and grow, one, they're going to love it. My kids, and it was all weird. It was all different. It was some liked baking, some liked this, some liked, the other stuff. And we didn't know. And we even had one that was like allergic to watermelon, which I thought was kind of weird, but it must be the acid or something. I don't know. I had no clue. I didn't think he could even do that, but he didn't like that, and it took us many years. And then we were like, oh, sorry, we feel bad because we were kind of making him eat that. We should have listened a little bit more, to his body and what he was saying. But I had just never even heard of it. So, but no, I love what you do. For everybody, if you go out, all the links are down below. out to the exhibitor booth. She has some wonderful, really cool little videos and more information. And then with a link out to their website, and that link goes right in, and there's a special prize to get. And I really like how you've done, how you've bundled everything together. So you get one prize for the family, and your lessons, 3 different levels, right? You got a beginner, intermediate, and older.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm skills based. So I'm a huge proponent of skills over recipes, right? So when kids learn to cook, I want them to not just have these like 5 recipes they can make. I want them to have 30 foundational skills so they can make any recipe they come across. So that's what we do, is we teach skills one at a time. They're connected in a real logical order. And, we have sort of our beginner level, which is your preschool, kindergarten. Intermediate, pretty much once kids can read. We want to teach them to read and follow a recipe on their own. We get them at the stove and using sharp knives. We've got kids as young as 4, 5, 6 using sharp paring knives, which is pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And I know homeschoolers are really big into life skills. So they're like, oh, sweet. If I'm speaking to non-homeschoolers, I'm like, we give them sharp knives. Don't worry. But I know y'all can handle that. And then our advanced level is when we level up to like cooking whole meals and using more executive function, using those big chef's knives. And yes, it is one price, one time for all of it. So you can take your 4-year-old through beginner. You can wait a couple of years, take that same child through intermediate without having to pay another fee. And then, and also homeschoolers who have co-ops love this too, because I mean, my goal is to get all kids in the kitchen, right? So you don't have to pay a separate fee to use it in a homeschool co-op. Just one teacher can own it, teach as many kids as he or she wants all year, every year. I love working with big groups. It's so fun.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool, because I really do think, I mean, our sons, all learn how to cook and dice and slice, and they all have their little things that they love to do, and their wives were very excited to find out that we taught them that, and we didn't have kids cook real food. Luckily, we had a chef or 2 that came in and kind of helped them, show that. And then my wife was a baker, so she loved always baking and doing things. And we did a lot of that. I would have loved to had your system, but now we have grandkids, and so I'll make sure we have that system for them. That way, it helps their parents, have my kids out, kind of going through and teaching them, and it's a really cool thing that I think brings families together. And anytime you eat, like you said, the kitchen preferred, not the kitchen, but the table,
family table, yes.
the family table, that, and that there's so many lessons, from just being together at the table. And that's something that we still have a tradition every Sunday, after church, everybody comes over and we eat together, for lunch. And that was something that our kids really wanted to continue to do, and, at least once a week. But
yeah, we really do. We bond around food. And when you're preparing food together, everyone's working together toward a common goal, sharing responsibility. There's so much connection there. Opportunity for conversation, connecting with the food. And I love that you mentioned that about boys too. I have 3 boys. And 1 girl. And so that's very important to me. I want their wives to be like, yeah, thank you.
I know.
And something I'm trying to do next week with the Snacks Challenge. We've got an executive chef who's a guy who's going to come and give a little talk on like how he creates recipes. And my son is actually a cookbook author. He's going to come and make a recipe for ice pops with the kids. And so I think it's just so nice for boys to see other boys, getting in the kitchen and just kind of like inspiring them to learn these skills.
Yeah. Well, Katie, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate that you're a part of the Homeschool Connect Expo and this online learning fair, and everybody take advantage of this opportunity you can see your passion, you can see, what you like to teach and what you're doing. And I do hope that you get, all the kids in the kitchen and doing this. This is a lost art. I was telling my wife a couple years ago, I'm like, man, this is one of these lost arts that that people are just missing, and it's easy to do. We got sucked into the quick and easy, the running through the Chick-fil-A, and
Yeah.
when it gets expensive, and it does catch up to you, and then real food's better, and so it's but I really appreciate you doing this and being a part of this. Everybody take advantage and click those links, get it out there, and get more information, sign up for the courses, and then you also have a Facebook page, right, where you do all kinds of all the stuff and let people know about
Yes,
the challenges.
definitely. Yeah, you can search Kids Cook Real Food on Facebook or Instagram. So thank you so much,
Okay.
Sam. It was great
Awesome.
to talk to your audience. I hope it was really helpful.
Yeah. Hey, appreciate it. And have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks.